team.
I love Sonic Adventure. Just want to start out with that. Okay, so after the failed launch of the Sega Saturn in the States, Sega Technical Institute attempted to release Sonic X-treme. The game went through a pretty lengthy development hell, until finally getting cancelled in 1997. Meanwhile in Japan, Sonic Team, consisting of most of the people who worked on the previous Sonic games, was busy developing Nights into Dreams, which got released in the summer of 1996. Of course, the next task for Sonic Team would have been to make a brand new Sonic game. While creators Naoto Oshima and Yuji Naka were aware that they'd need to make a new Sonic game eventually, it was actually Takashi Iizuka who was pushing for a new Sonic game to get released. At this point in time, Iizuka had only been a senior game designer for Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but now he would be placed in the lead director's chair for this next big Sonic game. Not only was this going to be the first true 3D Sonic game, but Iizuka initially wanted to make a Sonic RPG. He wanted more playable characters and a larger focus on story, to somewhat build on the narrative angle that Sonic 3 and Knuckles had. While the concept was explored briefly, the RPG aspect was dropped in favor of making a more traditional platform game, though they would still hold on to the idea of having multiple playable characters and story-driven aspects. Production of Sonic's first true 3D title initially began on the Sega Saturn, which didn't last too long, considering how difficult it could be to make a fully 3D game on the Saturn. So instead of making it a Saturn title, Sonic Team would have to move on to a completely new Sega console that was about to be announced in 1998. While the original Saturn version was abandoned, Iizuka didn't want everything that the team had worked on to go to waste, so an early build of the game was reworked into the Sonic world for Sonic Jam. Yep, Sonic World was built on a Sonic Adventure prototype, which is really fucking cool. With newer hardware, and a new generation of gaming on the horizon, it was not only decided that this would be Sonic's first 3D game, but it was also decided that the principal Sonic cast and world would need to be redesigned. So Sonic Team brought on artist Yuji Yukawa, who had previously designed Ristar. In earlier builds of Adventure, the original classic designs, as seen from the Sega Saturn era, were initially being used, until Yukawa-san was brought on because they just felt that the classic designs didn't fit well in 3D. Under Naoto Oshima's supervision, most of the characters were redesigned to look edgier and even more Western influenced, mainly inspired by graffiti art. Not only would Yukawa be in charge of redesigning older characters, but also with designing newer characters like Big, Gamma, Tikal, and more. Well, the brand new Sega console that this Sonic game was being made for would finally be announced in May 1998, and it was the Sega Dreamcast, the very system that would end up becoming Sega's final game console. While the new Sonic game wasn't revealed yet, around this time, this screenshot of the game leaked online. Looking at this now, it's obviously just a grainy shot of Sonic running in Speed Highway. However, back in '98, fans online were actually debating if this was even from a Sonic game, just based on how low quality the photo was. It's kinda crazy how this grainy image was probably a lot of people's first glimpse at this new version of Sonic the Hedgehog. The character redesigns were actually kept secret for a while too, but the first ever tease we got of the Yukawa-san redesigns was done with this officially released image. A silhouetted Sonic with the infamous green eyes and that iconic adventure smile. I love this image so much. I could talk about it for hours. Eventually, full art renders of every redesigned character would be released, and these redesigns were not met without controversy. Since Sonic fans are Sonic fans, not a lot of people were into the green eyes, lanky legs, longer quills, and all the other changes made to these characters, but I think I'll move on from this topic for now. So, with the Dreamcast revealed, this meant that Sonic Team's brand new Sonic game would have to be announced soon. And despite a few more leaked images popping up on the internet, the big reveal of Sonic Adventure ended up happening on August 22nd, 1998, at the Tokyo International Forum. The entire event was filmed and you can actually find it on YouTube. It's pretty cool to watch. First thing I want to mention about it, I just want to play the clip of Yuji Naka's entrance at this presentation, because it is the wildest introduction I've ever watched.
Producer of the Sonic team, Mr. Naka! Producer of the Sonic team, Mr. Naka! Ladies and gentlemen!
Honestly, say what you will about the guy, but him showing up with this bombastic introduction with the SA1 version of It Doesn't Matter playing, it's pretty badass. There's a pretty fun portion of the presentation dedicated to a pretty humorous video that Sonic Team filmed showcasing how development of Sonic Adventure was going. It's really charming and fun. Kind of related, a fellow content creator that I watched for years, Wendy, did an English translation of this presentation on her YouTube channel, but unfortunately, at the time of this re-review, Wendy's entire channel was taken down for a pretty crappy copyright notice, which meant all of her video and game translations were removed entirely. Thankfully, I did download the subtitles for the Tokyo International Forum video she did, which got re-uploaded. Again, I'll provide a link to it, but I also wish the best of luck to Wendy in getting her channel back up. It's really unfair that this happened because she did a lot of great work. So please go support her and try to convince YouTube to bring back her channel. Seeing a small channel like hers, which gave a lot to the community for so many years, only to get punished this badly is such a shame. But back to the event, seriously, if you love Sonic Adventure, I'd heavily recommend watching this presentation. It's a really good time. It's also just a great look at the first official public appearance of Sonic Adventure 1, along with showcasing the powerhouse of the Sega Dreamcast hardware. Even Yuji Naka would go on to describe the event as intense, and that he gave it his all. Yeah, with his entrance in mind, he seriously did. So, the Sega Dreamcast launched on November 27th, 1998, with Sonic Adventure releasing just 1 month later on December 23rd. While releasing on time was a good thing, Sonic Adventure had a pretty intensely rushed production. So much so that the original 1998 Japan release was riddled with bugs and other issues. Now, this wasn't Sonic 06 heavy, but the release was also kind of done on purpose. Sonic Team wanted to launch a Sonic game around the same time the Dreamcast released to help push console sales, which it did, though this would mean that they would have to put out a patched up version of the game in later releases. Both the Dreamcast and Sonic Adventure would not be released in America until the specifically timed date of September 9th, 1999. 9999. Unlike the Sega Saturn, Sega was not gonna fuck up the American launch of the Dreamcast. Not only would Sonic Adventure be released in the US for the first time, but this version of the game would also feature bug fixes, along with, obviously, English localizations. Though I'd say the localization changes were not as severe as what the classic games got. I'll explain why later. This patched version would get released in Japan as Sonic Adventure International. However, there was a limited edition of SA1 that was released in June 1999, a few months ahead of the official release. This version of Sonic Adventure was only available as a rental from Hollywood Video, so because of that, copies of it are extremely rare to come across. I wouldn't recommend getting it anyways. It's just an earlier version of the game with some of the same bugs that were in the initial 98 release. Thankfully, there is a ripped image file of it online, uploaded by famed Sonic community member DRX, so you can go play it yourself for free. The first ever exposure of Sonic Adventure that I had as a kid was through a History of Sonic video I came across on YouTube around 2006 to 2007. I can't find the original upload, but I think it might have just been the history video that was included in Sonic Mega Collection, which also makes a mention of the Sonic and Garfield collection on PC for some reason. It's canon. For SA1, it mostly showed the opening FMV with Chaos destroying the city. At this point in time, I was most familiar with the classic designs, so seeing all of this craziness mixed with these cooler redesigns of the characters just looks so sick to me. Around that same time, I would often look up cutscenes from the 3D Sonic games, mostly Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, but I never bothered looking up the cutscenes for Sonic Adventure 1. Like, it didn't occur to 9-year-old me at the time that Sonic Adventure 1 was also a game like Sonic Adventure 2 where it had cutscenes. I hadn't become a hardcore Sonic fan until December 2011, thanks to the Sonic CD remaster by Christian Whitehead. After playing that, I tried tracking down every Sonic game I could get my hands on, with the most recent game system I had at the time being a PS3.
I'm talking about that PS Triple. The PS Triple. I ain't talking about that Wii.
So naturally, back in January 2012, once I saw that Sonic Adventure was on the PSN store, I bought it immediately. And I really didn't like it. Now, this was the HD port, but the reason I didn't like it wasn't for the same reasons why I hate SADX nowadays. It was more so, I wasn't having a lot of fun with the game. I liked the regular Sonic levels just fine, but I hated the hub areas because I'd always get lost in them, and they keep preventing me from playing the rest of the levels. I also thought the cutscenes were super cringy to watch, so I'd always skip them. I dropped Sonic Adventure pretty quickly and didn't bother picking it back up, until the HD port of Sonic Adventure 2 was announced to be released later in October 2012. So I went back to Sonic Adventure, finished the game 100%, and I had grown more fond of it. Though, through researching the game in the later years, I discovered that the port I played on PS3 actually looked significantly different, and worse, compared to the original Dreamcast version. It wasn't until 2016 when I finally tracked down a Sega Dreamcast and a copy of Sonic Adventure. And after going through 3 copies of both the console and the game itself, I finally got to play through the original Sonic Adventure, and I loved it. Yep, the first time I played the Dreamcast version was for the initial Cooper's Perspective review. Well, it's been close to 6 whole years since then, and my love for this game has definitely grown a lot more. And I am so excited to finally talk about this game again. I dedicate this re-review to my piece of crap Dreamcast and its shitty disc reader. I actually had to re-record my gameplay footage 3 whole times, and each time, the disc reader only worked when it felt like it. I'll get this out the way now. I'm gonna be looking at the original Dreamcast version first, and get to the DX ports much later on. Though if there is anything I want to mention from those ports, I'll bring them up. But for now, here's my re-review of Sonic Adventure 1 on the Sega Dreamcast. Okay, first off, the story. You guys should know the drill by now, but if you don't, I'm gonna be here discussing this for a while. There are chapters in these videos now, so if you don't want to hear me talk about these games' stories for a long ass time, then use the timestamps in the description before bitching about it in the comments. The plot of Sonic Adventure is quite a major one. To set this up, there are 6 playable characters in the game, and each of them have their own stories with their own viewpoints and differing cutscenes. There's Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big the Cat, I'll get to him, and E102 Gamma. There's also a final story for Super Sonic. The plot is being told out of order based on when you unlock the characters, so I'm gonna try to summarize it in chronological order as best as I could. So Knuckles is chilling on Angel Island, looking over the Master Emerald, until he sees it get shattered. This releases a completely new antagonist, Chaos, an ancient monster made of water. The main reason Chaos is a water monster was because Sonic Team really wanted to show off how good the Dreamcast can make the water graphics look, so they had the main villain be made out of water. Smart! With the Master Emerald shattered, Angel Island falls into the ocean, leading Knuckles to have to track down the missing pieces of the Emerald in order to restore Angel Island. Meanwhile, in a city called Station Square, Sonic is hopping around on rooftops until he discovers a disturbance happening at the city's town hall, leading Sonic to encounter Chaos for the first time, which was being overseen by Eggman.
You know nothing, fool! It's Chaos, the god of destruction!
What the hell are you doing on the roof? Anyway, Sonic meets up with Tails, who joins him in the adventure where they encounter Eggman again. However, Eggman manages to snag a Chaos Emerald that Tails had. It turns out Eggman was the one who released Chaos, and he's also teamed up with him and starts feeding him Chaos Emeralds, with Eggman's main goal being that he'll have Chaos destroy Station Square using the power of the 7 Chaos Emeralds.
Together, we'll destroy Station Square! And on its ruins, I'll build Robotnik Land, the ultimate city, where I will rule it all!
Robotnik Land. Yeah, about that, Doctor. Okay, while Eggman is still called Robotnik in the US version of the game, Sonic does slip in this cute little joke referring to his Japanese name.
Look, it's a giant talking egg!
Silence! I am Dr. Robotnik, the greatest scientific genius in the world!
Whatever you say, Eggman!
While all of this is happening, a purple cat named Big is sleeping in a jungle area called the Mystic Ruins. What does this have to do with the plot? Well, while Big is sleeping, his pet frog, Froggy, comes upon this tiny part of Chaos, which he ends up devouring. This leads to Froggy growing a tail and running off, but not before swallowing a Chaos Emerald that Big had, causing Big to chase after him. Turns out Eggman wants a piece of that tail, why did I word it like that? So he gets a special Batnik built for the job, E102 Gamma, who he sends out to find Froggy. Yes, this was the best possible way I could work in Big the Cat's story into the summary. What else is happening? Oh yeah, Amy Rose is out shopping one day, until she looks up in the sky to discover Eggman's floating masterpiece, the Egg Carrier. She's then suddenly hit in the face by a small Flicky, which leads to her getting ambushed by a robot called Zero, which she manages to get away from. She almost immediately tracks down Sonic and asks him to help protect the small birdie she just found. This leads to Amy and the Flicky getting kidnapped by Zero, meaning Sonic has to go save them. While trapped on the egg carrier, Gamma goes see Amy to retrieve the Flicky. However, the bird appears to trigger this hidden memory inside of Gamma, leading to him releasing Amy. Though that just leads to her getting caught by Eggman. Turns out the little Flicky was holding on to another Chaos Emerald. Sonic and Tails arrive, but Eggman takes off, leaving them to fight Gamma. Though Amy interjects and begs Sonic to leave Gamma alone, which he does. Well, it turns out the egg carrier is falling out the sky, which means Tails has to leave with Amy, with Gamma flying off too. Meanwhile, Eggman takes the Chaos Emerald and Froggy to a different section of the ship. So it turns out the little portion of Chaos that Froggy swallowed, well, it turns out it's Chaos's tail. Not to mention Froggy swallowed that Chaos Emerald from earlier. So Eggman makes Froggy spit out the emerald, leading to the best cutscene in the franchise. What the hell did I just watch? Well, Chaos now has 6 Chaos Emeralds, and is in the strongest form he's ever been in. But Sonic defeats him, returns Froggy to Big. Oh, Knuckles is here too, I guess. Huh. Okay, this is taking a while to get wrapped up. I kind of forgot how jumbled the story can get. I'll try to go faster. Keyword being try. Sonic pursues Eggman back to the Mystic Ruins, and defeats him in his hidden base. Tails goes on a personal journey to become more independent from Sonic, leading to him defeating Eggman in Station Square. Knuckles also fights off Chaos 6, and returns with the shattered pieces of the Master Emerald, putting Angel Island back into the sky. During that, Amy helps the Flicky she's been protecting find her family, defeats the Zero robot, and eventually decides that she'll also become more independent from Sonic, which none of the later games follow up on. Big and Froggy return to the Mystic Ruins and dance? Also, Gamma goes on a personal mission to destroy all the E-Series robots in order to free the animals trapped inside them, leading to Gamma dying in the process and being freed as another Flicky. It's really sad and beautiful, but it has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. Okay, I think that's about all of the main plot summarized, so... Oh my god, Tikal! I am Tikal, and I will do the fall. Who the hell is Tikal? Well, she was a member of this ancient echidna tribe from thousands of years ago, as shown in multiple flashbacks throughout the stories. It turns out she was the one who discovered Chaos while she was looking after these cute little creatures called Chao. However, one day the whole echidna tribe turned on Tikal and attacked her, along with the rest of the Chao. This led to Chaos getting super pissed, so he obliterated the entire echidna tribe. Tikal, completely heartbroken, realized that she needed to seal Chaos inside of the Master Emerald in order to keep his wrath from destroying the whole world, which explains why when the Master Emerald was destroyed, it caused Chaos to appear, along with Tikal appearing as a little glowing ball in each character's stories. Also, Knuckles is the last descendant of the old Echidna tribe, which explains why he's the only Echidna to appear in these games. Okay, did you get all that? Cool. So in the final story, Eggman comes across a still living Chaos who attacks him. Then Angel Island falls back into the ocean again. You see, at the end of Knuckles' story, he ends up taking several Chaos Emeralds back with him, which explains why in the final story, Chaos goes after Knuckles after attacking Eggman. Meanwhile, Sonic is just sorta chilling until Tails shows up and informs Sonic that Angel Island has fallen again. They go investigate, leading to them discovering that Chaos is back and has 6 of the emeralds again. But it turns out Tails still has the last emerald inside his plane, but before they could go retrieve it, Chaos ends up nabbing it, meaning he finally has all 7 emeralds. This leads to the awesome FMV opening of the game finally happening, where Chaos floods the entirety of Station Square. Like, he completely demolishes it. But it turns out, however, that there were somehow 0 casualties in this. What the hell? There has to be at least 2 million people in this city and not a single one died in this disaster? That's impossible. So with Chaos in his final form, which looks suspiciously a lot like Biolante, Tikal finally shows herself outside of a flashback to explain what's going on. Turns out that Chaos absorbed all the negative energy from the emeralds, leaving them to look empty and colorless. Big, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy with Gamma's Flicky, I love that little detail, all recover the blank Chaos Emeralds. Tails explains that while Chaos absorbed all the negative energy, the positive energy still remains.
Sonic, you should be able to harness their real power!
As much as I hate to admit it, I think Tails is right about this.
Wait, why does Knuckles hate to admit that Tails is right about this?
Go, Sonic! Yeah, Sonic!
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 Negative forces aren't the only way to empower the Chaos Emeralds. Our positive feelings toward each other can make them worse.
Fun fact, the crowd chanting Sonic in the background was apparently a live recording from E3 1998, if I recall, which is pretty cool. Kinda reminds me of when they recorded 2 separate crowds chanting Happy Birthday Sonic for Sonic Generations. I love that shit. So, as Super Sonic, Sonic defeats Perfect Chaos and obliterates all the negative energy from Chaos as a result.
Chaos has changed again, this time for the better.
Yeah! Super Sonic must have neutralized it, so it's nice again.
Why did Tails phrase it like Super Sonic is a completely different character from Sonic himself? This isn't the Fleetway comics. Well, Tikal appears again and gives thanks to everyone for restoring peace to chaos. Thus, she floats away with him in the sky, peace finally being restored. Kind of. Station Square is still in ruins, so they didn't bother fixing that.
All's well that ends well, right?
The city's been fucking destroyed!
That was the plot of Sonic Adventure, and it's a lot. I think as a whole, the plot itself is decently entertaining and engaging. It being told through multiple characters' respective stories is an interesting idea on paper, but the execution itself is very disorganized. Sonic's story is a fine stop Eggman and save the day scenario. I think Tails going on this neat path of growing and reflecting on his dependency on Sonic is interesting. We even get a flashback of when Tails met Sonic for the first time. Pretty cool. Knuckles' story is just alright. I'd probably say his was the most disappointing. I love the backstory with the Echidna tribe. It built off the original Japan lore that Sonic 3 and Knuckles established, and I really wish it had more focus for Knuckles. However, you only really get to see these parts at random sections during the character stories, and Knuckles only gets about 2 flashbacks. Even then, he's not that entirely involved with what's going on. It's mainly Sonic that gets the most info. Like, yeah, I know it's Sonic Adventure, but Knuckles being the last descendant of this ancient Echidna tribe really leaves a lot of his character development being unexplored. I really wish Knuckles had more time in these flashbacks. It could have led to more good character moments. But with that said, I do really like Knuckles' closing monologue at the end of his story. I'd probably say it's one of his best shining moments in the whole series, and really reflects his whole character perfectly.
I may not know the whole story behind this, but perhaps it's better that way. I'm at peace once more.
Yeah, remember when Knuckles was a deep, involving character and not just a meathead? While we're on that topic, I do really like the cute callback to Sonic 3 and Knuckles where it shows Eggman tricking Knuckles into ambushing Sonic like before, and it leads to Knuckles redeeming himself pretty quickly. That's what you call character development. And yeah, Sonic Adventure seems to follow the original lore from Japan, instead of the weird Americanized version, which I'm grateful for. I know there's plenty of Mobius fans out there, but oh well, cope with it. I also did want to quickly mention this, but seeing the Echidna tribe lore be established in the movies, especially the second one, was honestly pretty sick. I love that so much. Okay, when it comes to Amy, Big, and Gamma stories, well, they're very closed off when it comes to the rest of the plot. Amy goes on her own personal journey and helps her Flicky find the rest of its family, and upon defeating Zero, decides she'll become more independent after the whole thing. This was an interesting path for her character to go in, seeing how she's always been conceived as this obsessive fangirl of Sonic, but my main gripe with this story is mostly related to how the later games handle it. This independence of hers is never brought up in future games, which sucks because this is easily my favorite version of Amy Rose ever written. I still love her in some of the later stuff, but it really sucks that they didn't bother building off the arc in Adventure 1. Big and Gamma are easily the most worthless stories. Big's is just all around pointless, with Froggy swallowing a Chaos Emerald being the only real link to the plot. Apart from that, there's nothing else. It's just worthless. And Gamma, self-contained, I do like his story. It's fascinating and has a very sad but touching ending. But in relation to everything else, I don't understand why we need to see any of this. Going back to Tikal's flashbacks, while I understand her showing Sonic and Knuckles some of this Echidna stuff, why exactly does she bother with Tails, Amy, Gamma, and Big? What exactly is Gamma or Big supposed to do with all this information? Like, why do they need to see all this crap? The final story is entertaining like the rest of the game, but it also just has a bleak presence in it. We literally see Chaos destroy the entirety of Station Square, and even after Sonic stops him, the city is still in ruins. They don't bother showing it get restored or anything. I mean, it's technically a happy ending, but like, you couldn't just have the city warp back to normal or something? Was it out of the budget? Jesus. The cutscenes themselves are a bit rough. They look worse with each port, but just focusing on the Dreamcast version, they get the job done, but could definitely be better. Knowing how rushed development was, I'm not too shocked with how kinda shoddy these cutscenes can look. I will admit, while I thought they were pretty cringe when I first played this game a decade ago, I have grown a huge soft spot for them. I love the way some of these animations can look, as they can range from being just fine to laughably entertaining. The characters' faces can be so expressive, almost to the point of hilarity. So yeah, while they are pretty rough nowadays, I'll still give the cutscenes credit for being fun to watch. Though something you may notice is that some characters can cross paths in their own stories. To make up for this, the dialogue was actually slightly rewritten for each story, so you're not just watching the same cutscenes again. This might not seem that huge a deal for some people, but I always appreciated that extra effort being made. While the in-game cutscenes can be rough, I think we can all agree that the pre-rendered CG cutscenes look really great. The best one being Station Square getting destroyed by chaos, which we see in the intro, and again during the final story. It looks fantastic, even nowadays. I also love the CG shots of Angel Island falling into the ocean, and the one where it goes back up in the sky. It looks so gorgeous. And while the egg carrier can look a bit iffy in regular cutscenes, it is a true work of beauty in the FMVs. We'll thankfully get to see even more pre-rendered cutscenes in the future games, so that'll be exciting. However, despite me excusing a few things, there are two major flaws I have with the cutscenes. First off, the lip syncing can be pretty awful. Obviously, the game's cutscenes were originally meant to fit the Japanese voices, but for the international releases, it doesn't seem like they were able to resync the cutscenes well with the English voice acting, so it could look outright bad at some points. You also can't skip them in the Dreamcast version. Personally, I wouldn't want to because I think they're so entertaining, but skipping the cutscenes still should have been implemented, which is like one of the only updates I'll give SADX credit for. Is there anything else I haven't discussed yet? Oh yeah, the voice acting. Okay, for those who aren't aware, I've had a pretty awful history with blabbing on for way too long about the voice acting in Sonic games, but I'm gonna try my best not to do that anymore, because I've talked enough about the story and these voice actor talks are just kinda boring. I'll try keeping it brief. Sonic Adventure was the first true Sonic game to have full-on voice acting in cutscenes. Sonic was voiced by Ryan Drummond. Getting straight to the point, he is my all-time favorite voice actor for the character. The energy and charisma he puts into Sonic's voice is so charming and unmatched in my opinion, which is kinda crazy considering how he found the voice to begin with. He just went in for an audition, saw a stand-up display of the character, and was simply told by the voice director, "What voice do you hear coming out of this character?" And he just came up with it on the spot. It's magical. I love him. I love him so much that I actually had him sign my copy of Sonic Adventure and a few games at Sonic Revolution 2019. Honestly, one of the proudest moments of my life. And shout out to my friend Emmy. Corey Bringus voices Tails, and he does a solid job. A young boy's voice fits the character super well. Michael McGaharn voices Knuckles, the only time he ever voiced the character, and I honestly feel he's super underrated. He seriously found the perfect tone for the character, one that I feel Scott Dreyer would later perfect in Sonic Adventure 2 and Heroes. Michael was a great Knuckles, and I really think he deserves more respect. Jenny Dooyer voices Amy. Like Ryan, she is literally my favorite voice of Amy. I love her portrayal so damn much. The late but great Dean Bristow voices Eggman. I feel like most of everyone can be mixed on this voice cast, but I think most people can agree that Dean is undeniably great as Eggman. He is the best actor to have stepped foot in this role ever. I swear, I adore this version of the character so much. Wrapping up, there's John St. John as Big and Gamma, who's fine, plus Elra Bowman as the voice of Tikal, who I don't think I even mentioned in my original review. I love her Tikal voice. It's the definitive portrayal of the character, mainly because this was Tikal's only real appearance. That's probably a good thing. So, I love all of these actors, and I think the voices they give the characters are just about perfect. But the acting, well, it's sometimes good, but it's mostly really bad. It does have that fun, bad 90s voice acting charm that most video games had at the time, but there actually is a legitimate reason why the acting is so uneven. According to Ryan Drummond, when the actors recorded their lines, they were given a voice director who was Lonnie Manella, who would later voice characters like Rouge the Bat in the future games. However, Ryan also described that there wasn't just a voice director in the studio, but there were also about 10 or so Sega employees there judging them. To make things worse, not all of them knew English that well, and often interfered with the voice direction and gave weird suggestions that made zero sense. Not only that, but apparently every actor wasn't given the full story scripts for the game, they were just given their characters' lines. So not only were they lacking proper voice direction, but also context as to why their character was even reacting to certain things. As a result, we got such amazing line deliveries like these.
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
That's Eggman! I wonder what happened to Sonic.
Chaos!
Is this a dream? It's more like a nightmare.
Come on, Sonic! We need to get busy!
You're right, my friend. So here we go!
Uh-oh. What's this?
Where's this?
Let's investigate, wanna?
Oh yeah, that's another thing that's more just the case of the times. The localization is a bit whack. Specifically, there's a few mistranslations in the game's English script, explaining awkward lines like, "Where's this?" and whatnot. Wendy did a video showcasing a more accurate Japanese script translation, and while her channel was sadly taken down, the translation she did for Sonic Adventure and a few other games did get re-uploaded. I'll provide a link in the description. Not only that, but her Sonic Adventure translation was also made into a mod called Sonic Adventure Retranslated. So I'd recommend checking this out if any of you were curious to see what got changed and what was just screwed up. I think that's all I'll say about the story and voice acting. It's not perfect, but it's entertaining as hell and I really love it. So now I'll get to talking about the actual game itself. I know, thank God. Hopefully this video won't be super long. Update, I finished the script. I'm fucked. Like I said before, you get to play as 6 characters in this game. Starting out with Sonic, his gameplay in Sonic Adventure is a near perfect one-to-one conversion of the classic games. Sonic's levels are all about high-speed platforming, which means he has his spin dash, which functions just like it did in 3D Blast where you have to hold the action button down to charge it up. However, in SA1, it's actually super broken because you can just spam the spin dash button over and over again, making Sonic zoom across these levels. It's quite amusing, and this is the only game in the series where the spin dash is this broken, which is actually pretty useful for speedrunning. Of course, the most obvious addition to Sonic's moves is the homing attack. While we technically saw this first in 3D Blast, Adventure 1 is where the homing attack became a default move. To use it, you just press the jump button twice when you're near an enemy, or an item box. Obviously, this move was added since jumping onto enemies is a little more difficult to pull off in 3D. I love the homing attack. I think it's a very welcome addition to Sonic's moveset, and really helps at maintaining the quick pace in levels. However, Sonic Adventure also introduces power-ups that characters can pick up in hub areas, so Sonic can get 3 upgrades. First, there are the Lightspeed shoes, which allow Sonic to charge up the spin dash for a little bit, then he stops and has this aura around him. This allows him to zoom across any trail of rings, which can be used for accessing areas or finding shortcuts in levels. Sonic can also get this crystal ring on his wrist, which can shorten up the charge up time for the Light Dash. The last power-up that Sonic can get is the Ancient Light, which grants Sonic the ability to automatically home in on enemies after charging up the Spin Dash. All 3 of these upgrades can be pretty useful, and the Lightspeed Dash would continue to appear in the future games, though it would function way differently. My one gripe with these power-ups, which becomes a much bigger problem in later games, is how most of them are mainly mapped on the same button. While it's not a huge issue in SA1, I just don't like this simplistic button layout, especially considering the Dreamcast controller has 4 damn buttons on it. So yeah, expect me to bitch about this even more with SA2 and Heroes. Moving on to Tails, he sadly can't spin dash, but he still controls great and can fly. He even gets a power up to improve his flying as well. Plus there's a ribbon upgrade that can let Tails do this sick ass breakdance move. I fucking love the Rhythm Badge. This has to be the most underrated power-up in Sonic history. It's a great move for Tails. Seriously, if we ever see a fully playable 3D Tails again, I want to see him have this move again. Don't just give him the dummy rings from Heroes in 06. Let the man bust a move. Next is Knuckles, who also can't spin dash anymore. Oh well. Thankfully, his glide and wall crawling more than make up for it, along with being able to punch, which is sick. And he could later get upgrades that could help him dig into the ground to find important items, which I'll be discussing in a bit. He even gets his own Ancient Light move, which functions pretty similar to Sonic's. Okay, Amy. Amy. She runs super slow, which is her biggest downfall in terms of gameplay. Apart from that, I do really like using her hammer. Like if you're running and get enough speed, you can slam the hammer on the ground and do this sick-ass somersault. It's pretty cool. However, Amy's main attack can mostly be used when she's standing perfectly still, which can really halt the pace in levels. She does get solid power-ups that can extend her attack range and give her a cool spin attack, but it's not really enough to improve her gameplay. I feel like a 3D Amy has a lot of potential, but SA1's version of her can really underperform in a lot of areas. Her top speed is the main thing that kills this. Because of how slow Amy could be, I usually jump in the air to help pick up speed immediately. Plus she even has a hammer attack in the air, which is way more effective. But honestly, if they did a 3D Amy more similar to how she plays in the advanced games, I think that would really kick ass. Overall, I do like Amy, but I don't really go back to replay her levels. All 3 of them. Anyways, next is, oh fuck, Big the Cat. Memes aside, Big's gameplay is not that great. His levels are about fishing. Yeah, fishing. What, you don't play a Sonic game for this? Basically, you just gotta catch Froggy. So you just cast the lure and hope to God that Froggy takes the bait. Once he grabs it, just reel that shit in and hope your damn fishing line doesn't snap, which can happen. Getting this out the way right now, Big's gameplay sucks, and it's easily the worst part of the game. I don't remember what I must have said in my original review, but it can be a little tricky beating Big's levels. Basically, once Froggy grabs the lure, you have to move the analog stick around so it'll hook onto him, since you can actually move the lure yourself underwater. The manual actually makes mention of this, but who the hell is gonna read the game manual? Also, when it comes to his upgrades, Big can get a floaty and some better fishing lures. Thank God. So yeah, this might be a huge shocker, but I never go back to play Big's levels when I replay Sonic Adventure. Thankfully, Big's story can probably be considered the shortest since he only has 4 levels. So I personally don't think it's as huge a deal as so many detesters for this game make it out to be. Like when you factor in all the other characters' stories, Big's story being as short as it is really isn't that huge a deal. Wait, why does Big have more levels than Amy? Okay, the last character is E102 Gamma. Gamma's levels are all about shooting things up. You just hold down the action button to lock onto a bunch of enemies, then let go of the button to destroy all of them. Though you can't target forever, otherwise it'll just cancel out if you hold the button for too long. However, it is encouraged that you lock onto as many enemies as you can, since Gamma's timer is actually counting down. And once it reaches 0, well, Gamma's out of commission. So the more enemies you kill, the more time you'll get. Fair trade. Gamma also has some of the best power-ups, which can range from weapon upgrades and a hover ability. The reason for Gamma's inclusion was actually because Sonic Team would get a ton of fan mail requesting that Sonic be able to shoot enemies in a future game. They didn't want to give Sonic a gun because why the fuck would you do that? So they made an entirely new character just for shooting levels, which I really like. It's a fair compromise and Gamma's levels can be a lot of fun. Also, damn, I wish this Sonic Team was still around when the Shadow the Hedgehog game was being conceived. And that's all the characters. But I guess before I discuss the levels, I want to talk about the hub areas. Basically, all the zones are connected through 3 different overworlds: Station Square, Mystic Ruins, and the Egg Carrier. While these hub areas were a big turnoff for me when I first played the game, 10 years later, they're honestly one of my favorite things ever in a Sonic game. I really love the atmosphere that each area can convey. There's just so much charm and detail to it. Not only can you run around and explore the hub areas, but there's also a few fun Easter eggs to be found. One of the best ones is when you go into Eggman's hidden base in the Mystic Ruins. You can find these green tubes that contain a Robot Sonic and Metal Sonic. Yeah, he's in the game, but this is his only appearance. I still really love seeing him. Plus that other robot Sonic is pretty fascinating. I'm not sure if this was new for this game or maybe a reference to a previous robot Sonic. Who knows, he looks rad. Hell, in both Station Square and Mystic Ruins, there are NPCs walking about and standing around, and you can talk to just about all of them. Some NPCs can actually have their own subplot going on as you play through the game. My favorite one is probably the girl at the burger shop, who has a crush on the guy that works there. She gradually works up the courage to go into the burger shop, but she's still nervous to even speak to the guy, and it ends with her just getting a job working with him, and he's still completely oblivious to the fact that this girl has a crush on him. It's really cute. Yeah, there are some oddball storylines going on, like the Mystic Ruins explorer who at one point is struggling to find the ruins. Somehow. Like it's literally in the jungle, dude. The only hub area that doesn't really have NPCs in them is the egg carrier, mainly since there's just Eggman's robots wandering around. If you want to find out more about the NPCs, I'd recommend watching Cybershell's video about them, because there's a few more interesting ones that I really don't have enough time to look at in this video. I absolutely love the way this game can look. Sonic Adventure was mainly created to showcase the power of the Dreamcast, and for a launch title, it did that considerably well. Actually, early in development, members of Sonic Team traveled to exotic locations in Central and South America so that they could find good inspiration for the look of the levels in Adventure. Lots of photographs were taken during the trip, and you can even see a little bit of it documented in the International Forum video. They wanted this game to look the most unique out of all the other Sonic games, and even some of the photos they took were used as textures in the game itself, which is super cool. I honestly still think this game holds up great graphically. The lighting can be super nice. One of my favorite details I just love is when it's nighttime, and there's just this blue light in the Mystic Ruins. It's so pretty. Fuck you, DX, for ruining it. The character models are also some of the cutest in my opinion. I really love Sonic's character model. He's got the modern look, but still seems a bit pudgy with his round body shape and all. It's almost like a perfect transition from classic to modern Sonic. It feels very gradual. The same can be said for Tails and Knuckles as well. Plus, Dreamcast Amy is probably my absolute favorite. Best version of Amy Rose, bar none. Not even just talking about the character models, but the Yukawa-san artwork that they were designed after is phenomenal. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this in previous videos, but Yuji Yukawa's redesigns for everyone is my all-time favorite aesthetic the series ever got. Sonic's Adventure appearance is so good looking. I love how stylized these official renders can look. It's just filled with so much personality and charm. I love this art direction. I think my favorite redesign has to be Amy's, mainly because it's much more unique when compared to her original CD design. Like, she's not just a pink Sonic anymore. Don't get me wrong, I still love Little Rosie, but Adventure truly is where Amy Rose became Amy Rose. I know that there are a few people who hate the redesigns and still prefer the original Oshima designs, which is totally fine. I love those designs too. We all have different preferences for art and whatnot. However, I do get bothered when people feel like the redesigns were a pointless marketing ploy to reinvent Sonic for cool 90s kids. I just think that greatly devalues the hard work that Yukawa-san really put into reinventing these characters. It was a bold new way of introducing newer generations to Sonic the Hedgehog, and I think he seriously nailed it. You don't have to like the redesigns, but I don't think calling them pointless is all that necessary either. I guess you can also say Sonic Adventure was the start of having different types of Sonic fans start to pop up. Like, instead of kids playing Sonic 2 first and getting used to the classic design, now kids were getting to play Sonic Adventure first and meeting Adventure Sonic. Then again, I guess there already were fans who were introduced to Sonic by the comics or cartoons, which could also be seen as radically different to what the games were doing. I guess my basic point is, Sonic fans don't actually know what they want because all of them have different ideas on what Sonic the Hedgehog should be based on which era they were introduced to. What the hell was I talking about? Getting back to the game, the gameplay is running at 30 frames a second, which kinda sucks, but it's not a huge deal breaker. though earlier footage of the game actually showed it playing at 60 frames a second, along with the lighting system looking a lot more dynamic too. But it also seems like the game was suffering a lot of slowdown in some areas. I'm gonna guess they had to scale back the frame rate and lighting details a few notches, just so the game could run better on Dreamcast hardware. Honestly, with how much I love the Dreamcast version in terms of graphics, lighting, character models, and so many other things, it just makes me despise how the DX ports kept changing and making the game appear worse. But I'll wait to talk about that crap. One super important aspect about this game that greatly enhances it is the soundtrack. The man in charge of Sonic Adventure's soundtrack was Jun Senoue, in his first time in charge as the sound director. It's not just Jun, but it's several other composers who bring a lot to the table. I am gonna make this crystal clear right now. Sonic Adventure 1 has my all-time favorite soundtrack out of any video game. Even when compared to previous games like Sonic 3 and CD, Sonic Adventure just ticks every box for me. This soundtrack does an amazing job at enhancing the gameplay experience, especially since it's a mixture of all kinds of genres and whatnot, leading to massive variety all throughout the game's music. Every level, hub area, and even cutscene have the perfect song accompanying it. I love how lively Station Square's music can come off, Mystic Ruins theme is super atmospheric, plus the Egg Carrier's theme is pretty excellent. When it comes to the level music, it's phenomenal, and it's also where the soundtrack gets a bit interesting. With Jun in charge, he actually decided to reuse select songs from the Genesis version of Sonic 3D Blast, another game he worked on. I already went over this in my 3D Blast re-review, but I think it's super resourceful and cool that Jun decided to rearrange these songs. And with the help of that recently released demo tape, we discovered that 3D Blast soundtrack actually had a lot more ties with Adventure than we may have thought. The obvious first one that comes to mind is Green Grove Act 1, getting rearranged for Windy Valley's third act, The Air. The second obvious track from 3D Blast was the song used in Twinkle Park's first act, Twinkle Cart. It's actually a rearrangement of Panic Puppet Act 1. Plus, after hearing the demo tape version, it's pretty clear that Jun didn't have to do much changing to begin with. The song was already a bop. The last known song to be reused from 3D Blast actually turned out to be Act 3 of Twinkle Park, Pleasure Castle. It's actually from an unused track from the demo tape, known as Bonus Stage Knuckles. Also, yes, the levels in this game are somewhat played in separate acts or different sections. I'll delve more into this when I get to the zone breakdown. Not only does Sonic Adventure have great level and cutscene music, but it was also the first Sonic game to feature multiple vocal tracks, with each character having their own theme song. Yeah, not just an opening and closing theme like in CD. Sonic has It Doesn't Matter, Tails has Believe in Myself, Knuckles has Unknown from ME, Amy has My Sweet Passion, and Big has Lazy Days Living in Paradise. Gamma and Eggman also have their own themes, but they're more so just regular game music, not vocal songs. But that'll change for Eggman in SA2, just you wait. Breaking down the vocal songs, I love just about all of them, for entirely different reasons. Most of the songs were composed by Jun himself, and I feel that each of them fit the characters perfectly. When it comes to It Doesn't Matter, it features Tony Harnell on vocals. The SA1 version of It Doesn't Matter is not only my favorite vocal theme in the game, but it's also probably my favorite vocal theme ever made for a Sonic game. I feel that it perfectly captures the spirit of Sonic's character. Plus, Tony Harnell is a severely underrated singer. I mean, his voice just sounds so spectacular. It's so full of energy and power. He's apparently got one of the widest vocal ranges out of any singer in the industry, which kinda makes it a miracle that someone like him got hired to sing on a Sonic game. Multiple Sonic games even. What a gift.
Long as the voice inside me says go, I will always keep on running. There is no way to stop me from going to the very top. It doesn't matter who is wrong or who is right.
When it comes to the vocal themes for Tails and Knuckles, I think they're pretty great. Believe in Myself is an uplifting song that fits Tails' character arc in the game. Plus, Karen Blake sounds great on it. Unknown from ME is also good, even though one of the singers attached to it, Dread Fox, most well known for voicing Parappa the Rapper, ain't really a great dude. Apart from that, it's still a great song and a good fit for Knuckles. Plus, Marlon Saunders sounds great on it. Both themes sound good.
I wanna fly high so I can reach the highest of all the heavens. Somebody will be waiting for me, so I have gotta fly higher.
Born on an island in the heavens, the blood of my ancestors flows inside me. My duty is to save the flower.
The last two vocal tracks, My Sweet Passion and Lazy Days, are just fun songs. My Sweet Passion, which features Nikki Gregoroff singing, is one of my personal favorites, though it's also the longest character theme, but it's super funky and nice. Such a bop. I greatly appreciate the Dreamcast Amy dominance. Lazy Days is extremely goofy, but seeing how it's supposed to be Big the Cat's theme, it perfectly fits his character. Plus, it also features Ted Poley on vocals, who we're going to be seeing a lot more of in future games, which is pretty exciting.
Sweet, you're so sweet. So many things I want. Sweet, sweet, you're so sweet. I wanna be a wonderful girl. Sweet, sweet, you're so sweet. I'm not simple-minded. Sweet, sweet, you're so sweet. And I won't be a pearl. Hey, big guy.
Hey, little guy.
Can you tell me who came first?
Sorry, but I don't know. We are simply natural.
By the way, if you really like Sonic Adventure's soundtrack, and you also really enjoyed Lazy Days, I'd recommend looking up the original demo version of the song, which got officially released on the compilation album, True Colors, The Best of Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2, which was put out in 2009. It's a pretty interesting version of the song, and I kinda prefer it. I love how rad the guitar can sound. Am I missing something? Is there another artist on this soundtrack that has left such a huge mark on the franchise and is beloved by millions of fans? Of course there is, you morons. It's Open Your Heart by Crush 40. Crush 40 is a band formed by Jun Sonoy where he's on lead guitar and Johnny Gioeli on lead vocals, who is a phenomenal singer by the way. Open Your Heart isn't a character theme, but it's actually the main theme of the game. This was the first time Crush 40 was featured in a Sonic game, and they would obviously appear much later on, even if they weren't doing the main vocal theme. Open Your Heart is a fantastic theme song. Obviously you heard it in the opening FMV, then you hear it on the title screen, the main menus, and the last story credits. This is honestly the greatest introduction song that I think Crush 40 could have ever done to cement their place in Sonic history. And I'm also gonna surprise a lot of people with the hottest of takes, but I personally prefer Open Your Heart over Live and Learn. Now hold up, I love Live and Learn, and I will go on about how much I love that song in the SA2 re-review, but right now, I'm just saying I personally think Open Your Heart is a better song. I adore the guitar solos, I like the lyrics here more, and I don't really understand why there has to be some great debate about whether Open Your Heart or Live and Learn are superior. They're both great, just like both, you fucking dorks.
I'm not gonna think this way, nor will I count on others. Close my eyes and feel it burn.
When I say these songs sound great, I'm not trying to play this off as they sound great for a Sonic game. What I mean is that they sound great as music in general. Are some of the songs cheesy? Sure, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And with how well made a lot of Crush 40's songs can be, I just want them to be recognized for the artists that they truly are, not just label it as butt rock or whatever other terms that people use to devalue how good the songs are. Open Your Heart and all the other vocal themes are fantastic, and I wish more people would just fully embrace how great they are. They also add a lot more to this great soundtrack that I adore. An official soundtrack album was released in 1999, but only in Japan. This was the Digilog Conversation, a 2-disc soundtrack containing most of the game's music, so basically all the level themes, cutscene music, and a few others. Aside from Open Your Heart, none of the other vocal themes were included, but they were included on a mini-album called Songs with Attitude, which released a good month before Digilog in 1998. These two releases never came to the States, which is heartbreaking in my opinion. Though Digilog did finally see a release here as the Sonic Adventure Volume 1 and 2 releases, which is the version that's currently up on streaming services. Jun Tsunoi also released a special album, Passion and Pride, Anthems with Attitude from the Sonic Adventure era, which contained both the vocal themes and the instrumental tracks from Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. This was the first time that the instrumentals for SA1 were ever officially released, which was pretty sweet to finally see. Passion and Pride would also get a digital release too, so most of the entire Sonic Adventure soundtrack is available right now, which makes me so happy. I feel like I've been talking about the soundtrack for a long time, but to sort of quickly mention this, the Sonic Adventure Music Experience CDs. I already did a video about this back in September 2020, but these two CDs were exclusively handed out at these special concerts that Jun Tsunoi did, where he and a band played these new rearranged versions of a few adventure tracks, and some of these remixes were included on a few of the non-stop music selection albums, though not every remix has been officially released outside these CDs. Thankfully, since the video I put up, both were tracked down and archived online, so I recommend looking these remixes up and listening to them. As a die-hard adventure fan, with SA1 being my favorite video game soundtrack of all time, the music experience versions of these songs are a treat to listen to. I'm using them as background noise for this re-review, so I'd recommend again just go check them out for yourselves. While still on the topic of soundtrack releases, of course there were the official Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 vinyls released in 2018. These were released by Brave Wave Productions in cooperation with Jun Tsunoi himself. Sadly, it was a limited release kind of deal, so both records can be pretty pricey these days, especially the SA2 vinyl. Best of luck to any of you collectors out there trying to get this. It's almost like a multi-dimensional 2.0. However, I did manage to get the SA1 vinyl. It was kind of a top priority since it's my favorite and all. It's a great release. It felt nice to finally see the adventure soundtrack get some recognition for a change. Okay, I think I've talked enough about the soundtrack and its official releases, like holy fuck. I love Sonic Adventure's music, it's my favorite, and it brings a smile to my face every time I hear any song from it. Also, the Generations remixes are solid too. And if you think this re-review has gone on long enough for my constant rambling, tough shit, I'm nowhere near done talking about SA1. Speaking of which, the levels. In total, there are 11 zones in this game, or action stages, but not all the characters get to go to every level. Nope, not even Sonic. He has 10 stages, the most out of every character. Meanwhile, Tails and Knuckles have 5, Amy only has 3, Big has 4 for some reason, and Gamma also has 5. Since there are 6 playable characters with different movesets, just about every level needed to be designed around each character and their abilities. So not only are the levels fast-paced for Sonic, but there's also a solid amount of platforming and hidden secrets to be found if you're more into exploring. I'm actually shocked at how faithful the 3D layouts in Adventure are compared to the classics. Like, they honestly nailed it the first time around. Not only are a lot of the layouts solid, but their structure is really well executed. You mostly notice this as Sonic, but every time you reach the end of an area, you get loaded into another section. This essentially means that the levels are kind of broken up into acts, which is another huge aspect that's like the classics. But this also means that every level act has a different piece of level music too. God, I love this soundtrack. All 6 characters travel through the levels doing different tasks. Sonic's levels are just about reaching the end, usually bursting open an animal capsule. Tails is typically about racing Sonic or another character to the end, which a lot of the time you can cheese easily by using his flying move. Like seriously, it's barely a race. Knuckles' levels are, well, a bit more complicated. His levels are more for exploration since he's trying to find the shattered pieces of the Master Emerald, with him needing to find 3 in each level. He's even equipped with a radar that can help detect each piece, which glows redder the closer you get to them. Knuckles' levels get a lot of shit for how lengthy it could be to find the pieces, though I personally feel this problem gets even worse in SA2. I actually greatly prefer them in SA1 for how pretty compact the levels can be, compared to how massive they can get in SA2. Plus, the radar is a million times better here because it detects all 3 pieces, not just one at a time, which I really fucking hate, but I will get to that shit much later. Okay, wrapping up the last 3, Amy's levels are just about getting to the end while running away from the Zero robot, Gamma's levels are about shooting things and tracking down a target, and Big's levels are fishing. The latter 2 I already talked about before, so I'll just get to the level breakdown. Emerald Coast is an excellent level, one of my all-time favorites in a Sonic game. I'd even reckon it's the best first level for a 3D Sonic game ever. I love the beach aesthetic and the music is so good. Plus that shot of Sonic running away from the killer whale is spectacular. I'm stealing this quote, but I'm sure this shot sold the Dreamcast for a lot of people. It's just so epic and iconic. You get to go to this stage as Sonic, Gamma, and Big, with Sonic going through both acts, Gamma going through a shortened version of the first act, and Big's Emerald Coast is a modified version of the end of Act 1. At this point in the game, you should have the floaty upgrade, which makes this the easiest level to catch Froggy in. I think I should mention this real quick, but most of the power-ups are back from the classics. This includes the ring boxes, 1-ups, speed shoes, and all that. The standard shield is also back, but now it's green instead of blue. Cool. However, they also brought back the electric shield, but the only thing it does is attract rings to you. I know a few of you may be thinking, yeah, dipshit, that's what it always did. You made a 94-minute video on Sonic 3, you fucking loser! What I mean is that it only attracts rings. You can no longer double jump, mainly because tapping jump twice just does the homing attack or air dash. Not to mention, and this is a detail that I don't see anyone talking about, it doesn't even protect you from electric elements. What the fuck? Did Sonic Team just forget that the electric shield is supposed to protect you from electric attacks as well? You're probably thinking, well, maybe that's not an electric attack. What if it's just a different looking shard attack? Even if that was the case, later on in SA2, the electric shield still can't protect you from electric attacks, and the electric obstacles are way more blatant in that game when compared to SA1. Can someone please create a mod that fixes the electric shield? And if the double jump can also be incorporated, that would be pretty sick. But please, at least fix it to where it could bypass enemies with electric attacks. My brother in Christ, Azuka, you worked on Sonic 3! Anyways, back to Emerald Coast. I guess I should address the elephant in the room. That being the second loop in the level that's recently become infamous by morons who don't know how to play Sonic games, or video games in general. Unlike the classic games where you had to build up enough speed to run through a loop, in this game, and most of the 3D games, they're automated, meaning you have to keep holding up to run through the whole loop. It's an incredibly simple task that anyone can easily do. So why the hell is this second loop causing so much of a fuss? In case you didn't hear, it is the second loop in the level. That means you had to run through the other one earlier. What the hell is wrong with people? Though when it comes to the whole concept of putting loops in 3D, it honestly seems pretty tricky. Though I'd probably say the game that did them the most correct was that fucking Roblox Speed Simulator. They were sort of automated, but I kinda liked it. I actually wouldn't mind seeing loops work this way in official games. But going back to SA1, I think the automated loops are handled fine. Like sure, if you purposely try to, you can clip into the second one, but that's your fault, you fucking baby. Get over it. Also, this is a very dorky rant, but if you've already watched this far into the re-review, then you're probably used to that. But I fucking hate that water is just a bottomless pit in this game, and many other future games. Seriously, why is this such a common thing in multiple modern Sonic games? It's so disappointing to me that we don't have these open ocean areas that just act as underwater areas. Why do they have to be bottomless pits? Is Sonic allergic to water now? I'm not asking for some horribly unfun water level, but I think just having small underwater sections is way better than having just massive bottomless pits surrounding the whole level. I don't know. I just really hope this trend fucks off in Frontiers or something. Otherwise, I'm gonna be upset. I guess I will briefly mention that Emerald Coast got brought back in Sonic Generations on 3DS, which I still haven't gotten to play for myself. But looking at gameplay footage, it looks fine. I'm not sure when I'll ever look at the 3DS version of Generations, but I guess it'll still be cool to play through a different version of Emerald Coast. Though my absolute favorite part of these new versions of Emerald Coast are the remixes, in the sense that they don't really sound like the usual classic and modern remixes in Generations, but they sound more like rearranged versions of Emerald Coast Act 1 and Act 2. Seriously, the Generations remixes are almost like precursors to the Sonic Adventure music experience CDs. I wonder if doing those remixes back in 2011 inspired June to want to do even more of them in 2016. It's pretty interesting. Getting back to the Dreamcast version, every time you beat a level, you earn an emblem, which are kind of like the Power Stars in Mario 64 in the sense that you can collect a bunch of them throughout the game. What's the point of getting all the emblems? I'll talk about it later. The next level is Windy Valley, where Sonic, Tails, and Gamma get to go. This one's a little more straightforward when compared to Emerald Coast. The first act is pretty simple, and it ends with you getting sucked into a tornado, with the second act of the level being about climbing up the tornado. And the third act is just a regular set piece where you run down a few more automated sections. This is the first level for Gamma where he has to destroy one of his E-Series brethren, which is, I'll get to it. Windy Valley is also Tails' first level, which just involves him racing against Sonic. And it is stupendously easy seeing how his flying can really break the game. I'm starting to see why they limited Tails' levels to just racing. While I do like Windy Valley just fine, the version of the level in the final game wasn't always going to be this straightforward and simple. Early footage of Sonic Adventure showed a vastly different looking Windy Valley, which looked far more open-ended, and visually more dynamic with its blue textures and whatnot. I'm not too sure why, but it was decided pretty late into development that Windy Valley would have to be completely redesigned. This early version of the level was initially only seen in pre-release screenshots and brief clips, along with a quick frame of it being shown in Amy's flashbacks. However, a near-complete version of the original Windy Valley managed to get discovered on an older build of the game called the Auto Demo. Thus, the level layouts were ripped from the Auto Demo and made into a mod for the PC version. So you can play the beta version of Windy Valley right now if you're interested. And I highly recommend it if you're super into 3D Sonic games like I am. This is quite possibly the best designed level in Sonic Adventure, and it honestly breaks my heart that they scrapped this earlier version because I am in love with it. There's so many different pathways, open space, hidden item boxes, and I really love the blue textures a lot. Seeing all of this get restored is fantastic. You can always rely on Sonic fans to help preserve the best shit. Hell, the mod even reworks Tails and Gamma's missions to fit the new layout, which is super cool. So yeah, I like Windy Valley, but I greatly prefer the auto demo. Next is Casinopolis, which is alright, but I don't go back to it too often. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles go here. Sonic's Casinopolis includes pinball machines, where you gotta rack up enough rings, and deposit all of them in a room to reach the animal capsule. There's two different pinball machines, one that's just Sonic themed, and another that's based on Nights into Dreams. This one is super cool and even has a few fun bits where you can fly through areas to see Knights flying about. I really like it. So while the pinball stuff is fun, trying to gain enough rings to beat the level can be pretty time consuming. So when I play this level, I usually try to head to the Dilapidated Way, a secret area where you travel through vents, which can contain a lot of ring boxes. This area is also where Tails' level takes place, mainly since it's more compact and straightforward. By the way, I call this area the Dilapidated Way because that's what it's called on the official soundtrack. And surprise, surprise, it's one of my absolute favorite songs. Knuckles Casinopolis just has them in the main lobby area, which include these weird robot pirates, and a much better look at this sick-ass golden Sonic statue, which you could ironically miss pretty easily when playing as Sonic. There's even a small crack on his shoe, which Knuckles can punch, causing the whole thing to fall apart. Fun fact about this zone, in the original 1998 Japanese version, there was a cowgirl statue you can get to as Knuckles, which made moaning sounds whenever you got close to it. This was obviously removed for the 1999 international releases, but there is a mod on PC to restore the statue, so go have fun with that. Next is Ice Cap from Sonic 3? Yes, kind of. Obviously, they couldn't use the original level music for reasons, but the new music June came up with still sounds phenomenal. Ice Cap looks so fucking pretty on Dreamcast. I really love the bluish details on the snow. It just looks so lively. You travel to this level as Sonic, Tails, and Big, of course. Sonic gets the usual 3 acts, with the final act ending with a sick-ass snowboarding set piece. Tails' Ice Cap is just a snowboard race with Sonic, which makes sense. Big's Ice Cap is just fishing again. But I did notice something interesting when playing the Dreamcast version for the first time. Big's Ice Cap takes place at nighttime, which you can't really see that well in the DX ports. It's such an odd detail, but I really like it. Up next is Twinkle Park for Sonic, Amy, and Big. Sonic's first act has him riding in this little bumper car. It's a pretty fun part, and you can even change the camera angle using the D-pad. It even includes a first-person view, which is fun. And then Act 2 is just a regular stage with solid platforming. Some of the best in the game, I'd say. Also, yes, I'm very aware that this game isn't technically perfect, meaning there are a few bugs and glitches you can do. The one really fun thing I like doing in this level is, when you get to this part with the merry-go-round, I usually use the game's whacked up physics to shoot up in the air, and I managed to go inside the merry-go-round. Yeah, you can go over the invisible wall and walk around the merry-go-round. What does it have to do with the rest of the level? Nothing at all. I just think it's fun. Amy's version of Twinkle Park is pretty interesting. She starts out in Act 2, but then immediately enters this indoor area that no other character can go to, which includes a few mirror rooms and whatnot. This part of the level is fine, but what really sells this section is the damn music. It can sound pretty creepy. Like, it's mostly just the piano and ambient noise. There's even a fucking voice clip of a baby crying. What the fuck? Really goddamn spooky. Also, in case you're wondering, Big gets to go fishing in the pool area in the second act. I know, it's exciting. I guess I should mention that Twinkle Park is Big's first level, and this is your first impression of his gameplay. This is all you're doing. Have fun! Speed Highway. Probably the most popular level in the game, and it's easily one of the best. You go here as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Sonic has another fast-paced, good-ass time in Act 1, leading to a pretty awesome set piece in Act 2, with him running down the side of a skyscraper. Kinda like the killer whale in Emerald Coast, this has to be one of the most iconic images in Sonic history. Okay, as good and fun as the first 2 acts are, I honestly prefer the third act the most, which me and a lot of fans like to call At Dawn, mainly because that's what the soundtrack calls it, and it's another one of my favorites. Try to take a shot every time I said that in this review. The reason it's my favorite part is because it's pretty explorative, with Sonic being able to travel on rooftops and such. It's a lot of fun. And of course, with how open this area is, that means this is where Knuckles searches for the Emerald Shards, which means I get to spend more time in At Dawn, which I don't mind at all. A lot of you may be aware, but Speed Highway was brought back and remade in Sonic Generations. And while it's one of my favorite levels in Generations, I also adore the remixes. The one gripe that I hold against it is that they didn't bother doing their own At Dawn section. It was mostly just a remake of the first 2 acts. Pretty disappointing, but then again, the gameplay in Generations and Adventure are pretty different, so it probably would have been really tricky to add an At Dawn section. And it also breaks my heart that we didn't get a remix of At Dawn. Oh well, the rest of the level was still fun. Getting back to Adventure, Speed Highway is Knuckles' first level, but for Tails, it's his last. He's in Act 1 racing against Eggman instead of Sonic this time, meaning he can go to different parts of the level that Sonic can't reach, mainly thanks to Tails' flying ability. I also really love how characters drop voice clips in Tails' levels, leading to some fun dialogue exchanges. It also causes a pretty hilarious reaction from Eggman at the start of the level.
You think you can keep up with me? What? He's caught up?
Next is Red Mountain. This level's a lot of fun. Sonic, Knuckles, and Gamma go to it. I really like how explorative this level can be for Knuckles. It's almost like a predecessor for Pumpkin Hill. That's how massive in scope this zone can be. Knuckles only has the first act, while Sonic gets to go through 2 acts, and Gamma only has the second act. Act 2 is pretty noteworthy for having these weird, ghostly prisoners behind jail cells. They don't really do anything. They're just a background element, and they seemingly get burned to death by the lava rising immediately after you encounter them. So rest in peace again, I guess. Sky Deck. This level gets a lot of shit, but it's actually one of my personal favorites. I love the feel of adrenaline this zone can give me. The first act has Sonic platforming around like usual, but one really awesome visual detail is that when the egg carrier ascends and descends, the lighting in the level changes. That's so freaking rad. Tails and Knuckles also go to this zone, with Tails racing Sonic in Act 1, while Knuckles is emerald hunting in Act 3. Though what's kind of a cool continuity thing, Knuckles' level gives him access to this lever that changes which angle the ship can be. And in Sonic's level, the egg carrier starts shifting angles the further you get into the level. It's almost implying that Sonic and Knuckles are in this level at the exact same time, but they just barely miss each other. That's so cool. The next action stage I'm gonna bring up is pretty special because it's the only level that Sonic doesn't go to, and it's another level that's on the egg carrier, Hot Shelter. This level's for Amy, Big, and Gamma. Amy and Gamma spend the longest time here. Amy has a few easy puzzle solving areas, with one of them ending with Zero appearing on the TV screen before bursting out. It's a pretty cool visual. Since this is Gamma's final level, that means he fights the last E-Series robot here, and this one has a bunch of Dreamcasts on its textures. This is still in the DX ports too. I always loved that little detail. Oh yeah, Big goes fishing in the aquarium. Thank God this is his last level. It's kind of a shame that Sonic doesn't get to go here, though I'm sure there's mods on PC that make it possible. Next is Lost World. No, not that Lost World! This level takes place inside of the Mystic Ruins Temple, with Sonic and Knuckles getting the go here. Sonic's level lasts about 2 to 3 acts, and Knuckles' emerald hunting takes place in Act 2. In Act 1, there's an underwater section that's actually one of the very few times in the game you can travel underwater. Though, if you just go walk out the entrance, it'll instantly put you out the water. So yeah, they kinda missed that part. Act 2 also has a pretty interesting anti-gravity segment, where Sonic can run up walls when they're lit. I usually just spin the hash up in the air to reach the top. It's a great speedrun technique. While Knuckles' level takes place in Act 2, it uses a different music track that Sonic can't normally hear on regular playthroughs. You can actually hear the music piece in Sonic's level when you get to the very brief third act, so the song can end pretty quickly right when you arrive. It's a very underrated track too. I like it. I do like Lost World, but kinda like Casinopolis, this is one of those levels that I go back to the least. Not that it's awful or anything, but I'm just not super crazy about the level design. I do like some set pieces like running from the boulder, and even the dark room where you have to light up your way. I think that seriously showcases how great the lighting engine is, but aside from those cool parts, this level isn't in my top 5. The final level is Final Egg. You go here as Sonic, Amy, and Gamma. It's the last level for both Sonic and Amy, but it's the first level for Gamma, which is kinda funny. Final Egg, in my opinion, is one of the best 3D Sonic stages ever made. This one perfects so much that I love about Sonic level design. Fast-paced sections, differing pathways, hidden secrets, and a great amount of replay value. I love Final Egg so much. And we really need more levels like this in the future games. I like the cool rotating cylinders in Act 1. Kinda reminds me of the ones in Metropolis Zone and Flying Battery. Act 2 has a pretty cool set piece where Sonic can't risk falling down. Otherwise, he'll fall into a deep void at the bottom of the level. It is a weird obstacle and placement for a bottomless pit, but I still really like it. By the way, this visual effect was butchered in SADX, so Sonic just sort of falls into nothing. But whatever, I'll get to DX when I do. Act 3 has these funny Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles dolls that you can kill easily. They're a fun detail. Oh yeah, Amy's level features this weird section where you have to choose the right door in an area. And this section is randomized every time you replay the level, so the exit isn't always going to be in the same spot. It's a really interesting gimmick. Again, I adore this level, and I think it's the perfect example of how to do 3D Sonic almost flawlessly. I shit you not, Final Egg is right up there with Beta Windy Valley for me. God, I love this game so much. Okay, those are all the main levels, but there's also these short sub-game levels too. The first two are both acts of Sky Chase. You have to play both these acts in Sonic and Tails' stories. These are basically rail shooter levels modeled after a different Sega IP, Panzer Dragoon. You just move the tornado around, target enemies by holding a button, then release to shoot them down. These two levels are a decent amount of fun, though being forced to replay them in Sonic and Tails' stories can be a bit redundant. Another sub-game you end up playing is in Tails' story, Sand Hill. I'm not doing the joke. It's just a basic snowboarding level, just in the desert, with Tails being able to go through these goalposts that can multiply your score at the end. It's decent fun. Another sub-game is an extra level in Twinkle Park, Twinkle Circuit. This one's just about lapping this little race course 3 times, and that's it. Though the music does contain a cute remix of It Doesn't Matter. There's another sub-game listed in the menu for Hedgehog Hammer, which is a minigame that Amy gets to play in her story, which can help her unlock an upgrade. You just smack the Sonic and Supersonic heads. Supersonic gives you more points, and you gotta avoid all the Eggman heads because it'll reduce your score. It's there. I do like that they give you the option to replay it in the hub area. Like, sure, after you beat it, it's a pretty pointless minigame, but I still just like having the option to replay it, okay? Little details like that just make me love the hub areas even more. And I think that just about wraps up all the action stages and sub-games. For fuck's sake, look how long this re-review is! Why do I talk about Sonic so much? Okay, the boss fights. First off, I'll discuss the character battles, because they're all pretty awful. Basically, as certain characters cross paths in their respective stories, they could end up fighting each other. The results are kind of embarrassing. The Sonic and Knuckles fights are pretty infamously horrible. As Sonic, you can just spam the homing attack, or as Knuckles, you can just use the punch button over and over again, ending the fights in seconds. Every character battle is like this. It's pathetic.
Oh no!
The Gamma fights are all just terrible. You can just mash the target button over and over again, ending each character fight so fast. Look, I love this game and all, but it sure as hell ain't perfect. Holy crap. I do kind of like the Hot Shelter fight with Gamma, not only because of the Dreamcast textures on the boss fight, but the floor is rotating, meaning you have to do more than just stand still, but it could still be ridiculously easy. When it comes to the actual boss fights, they're relatively solid. Sonic's story actually starts out with a short boss fight with Chaos Zero. Yeah, the game starts with a boss fight. I know some obnoxious YouTubers consider this to be bad game design, for some reason. If the boss was really difficult, I'd kinda get it, but this is literally one of the easiest boss fights in the whole series. Like, who the fuck would die to Chaos Zero?
I don't even know what to do.
Exactly right. I guess when he's doing an attack, oh, I died.
Why am I not surprised? Like the character battles, certain boss fights can actually be repeated in stories. So both Sonic and Tails fight the Egg Hornet, which is a fine first Eggman boss. The other Eggman encounters include the Egg Viper for Sonic's final boss, and the Egg Walker for Tails. The Egg Walker's pretty cool. I love that this boss makes you use Tails' spin attack to cripple it. It's a lot of fun, and god I miss this move. The Egg Viper is a decent fight, though it has become pretty infamous for that voice clip.
Get a load at this! 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 Get a load at this!
Which is actually a reused line from an earlier cutscene when Sonic and Tails first arrive on the egg carrier.
You haven't seen the power this vessel really has! Get a load at this!
Now that's what you call resourceful. While Gamma's fights with the E-Series robots are pretty terrible, he does get an actual final boss in his story with E101 Mark II. This fight is pretty solid, therefore making it the best E-Series fight. It takes place outside the egg carrier where you gotta dodge 101's projectiles and target him when there's an opening. Amy also gets her own final boss in the same area, pinning her against the Zero robot that's been chasing her throughout the game. It's another decent boss fight, and it's probably the best part of her story. Like I mentioned before, the start of the game has you fight Chaos Zero, but we also get to fight 4 different forms of him. The Chaos 2 fight happens in Knuckles' story. This version of Chaos can bounce around as little water bubbles. It's not a bad fight. It's probably the most underrated one from Chaos. Then there's the Chaos 4 fight, which is fun enough on its own, but you're forced to fight him 3 separate times as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, which can be a bit repetitive, especially if you're crazy like me and you're trying to play through the whole game in one sitting. Also, it's pretty funny how Tails fought Chaos 4 just fine in this game, but then in Sonic Forces he was cowering in fear against Chaos Zero. What a travesty. Next is Chaos 6, who Sonic and Knuckles get to fight, with this being Knuckles' final boss. This is probably the best Chaos fight in the game. I love using those little robot things to freeze up Chaos, just so you can smash him into pieces. I really love that effect. It's also got one of the best music tracks in the game, which I think Jun Sonoy said that Chaos 6's boss theme is his favorite song he made for the game. And yeah, it's seriously one of the best tracks. Oh yeah, this boss fight also happens at the end of Big's story too, meaning this is Big's only boss fight. And all you have to do is just launch the lure at Froggy to win. Awesome. Before I talk about the true final boss, I should probably bring up how throughout the game, we see and fight multiple different forms of Chaos. To recap, you fight Chaos 0 at the start, you see Chaos 1 in a cutscene, then Chaos 2, 4, and 6 are bosses. However, there are 2 forms that we never get to see, Chaos 3 and Chaos 5. Of course, fans like to speculate and create fan art of what Chaos 3 and 5 might have looked like, but it's pretty interesting how it's never addressed in the actual game. But there is one final form of Chaos that I have yet to discuss, Chaos 7, aka Perfect Chaos, the true final boss of the game that you don't get to fight until Supersonic Story. The requirement to unlock Supersonic Story is by beating every other character's story, which for some people who, let's say, hate Big or even Amy's stories, this can become very time consuming. I am a bit biased because this is one of my favorite video games, and I don't mind playing through the whole thing, but in my honest opinion, it just gets kinda worse in the future games. Anyways, Perfect Chaos has 2 phases, and you fight both as Supersonic. To attack Chaos, you just gotta pick up the right amount of speed and go ram right into him, while also avoiding a bunch of obstacles and stuff that can break your pace. You hit him 3 times in each phase, and that's pretty much it. As a final boss, it's pretty decent, and it's a fun reward to finally play as Supersonic, but there are 2 issues I have with this boss fight. The first phase of Perfect Chaos plays Open Your Heart, which is awesome. However, it only plays during the first phase. The second phase plays a different orchestral piece. It still sounds great, but I don't know. I feel like the music tracks probably should have been swapped. I think it would have been way more impactful to end the fight with Open Your Heart, which thankfully, later games like SA2 and Sonic Heroes would fix. Plus there are mods on the PC version that do this simple fix. The second issue I have with this boss is more so just an issue with the game itself. While you do get to play as Supersonic in this boss fight, this is the only part of the game where you get to play as him. Yep, Sonic Adventure was the first in a line of games where you couldn't play as Supersonic in regular levels. It's disappointing, but it also doesn't break the game for me personally. And again, there are mods on PC that can let you play as Supersonic outside the final boss. But this can lead to some pretty messy results as Supersonic can outrun and break a lot of the level structures, which was probably the main contributing factor why he was only playable in the final boss. These stages were very clearly not designed with Supersonic in mind. Though, on an interesting note, the decision to cut Supersonic out of regular levels was very likely made at the last minute, because in the game's files, there's an unused voice clip from Tikal that said this.
Gather 50 rings and press the action button while you jump. You'll transform into Supersonic, but watch out for your ring consumption.
Fascinating stuff. So it's pretty cool to see this idea get realized in PC mods. Of course, Perfect Chaos was brought back in Sonic Generations, and it was a pretty fun remake of the fight, and it's a bit more interesting because you're playing as regular Sonic instead of Supersonic. Not to mention, Perfect Chaos got a really good redesign. Apparently, this is how they originally wanted Chaos to look on the Dreamcast, but they weren't able to do it with the technology at the time. So it's pretty cool that they took advantage of that with Generations. Plus, the Circuit Freak remix of Open Your Heart sounds awesome. But getting back to Sonic Adventure on Dreamcast, not sure what else to talk about. Oh snap, there's one major thing for me to bring up, and it's one of the most popular parts of both adventure games, the Chao Garden! Let's fucking go! So for the average Joe who decided to watch this re-review, just what the hell is the Chao Garden? Well, it's an extra part of the game where you can raise these cute little creatures called Chao. You hatch them from an egg at first, but over time, they'll grow into really strong creatures. You see, while playing the levels, you may notice that small animals pop out the badniks whenever you kill them, just like in the classic games, but you can actually pick them up and collect them. How come? Well, you can bring the animals back to the Chao Garden and give them to your Chao, which can help them gain more stats. Chao stats can actually differ depending on which version of SA1 you're playing. Going off the original Dreamcast version, there's Swim, Flight, Run, and Power. A Chao can gain a stat in a certain category depending on which animal you give him. So what's the point of leveling up your Chao? Well, you can get them to participate in Chao races, and winning all of them can help you earn a few more emblems. Raising Chao can be an extremely time-consuming process, especially if you're playing the OG Dreamcast version. What's pretty asinine is that the only way you can check your stats on Dreamcast is by loading your Chao into the visual memory unit. These were basically cool memory cards for the Dreamcast that you plug into the controller. Upon putting your Chao into the VMU, it'll install a minigame called Chao Adventure. Here, your Chao can go on these little strolls, you can play minigames to earn fruit for your Chao and whatnot, and you can check your stats here. I'll be honest, I'm not too crazy about the Chao Garden in the original Dreamcast version. It comes off more like a tech demo and it's super bare bones. This is actually one of the rare points where I'd say stick to the DX ports. Hell, even the Chao Garden in SA2 is vastly superior in terms of features, a lot of which would be incorporated into DX on GameCube, since that port got released a whole 2 years after SA2. SADX and SA2 add a lot of improvements to the Chao Garden, including being able to read your Chao's stats by simply picking them up, along with adding a 5th stat for stamina, which is pretty standard. However, the Dreamcast version actually did have a 5th stat, and it was for HP? What? What the hell was that for? Well, you can actually harm the Chao, and in Dreamcast SA1, thanks to the HP stat, you can straight up kill them. While you can still technically do this in SA2 and SADX, those games try to play it off as just the Chao fading away, but the Dreamcast version straight up kills them. It's so morbid. So yeah, just be on the lookout that you don't accidentally spin dash your Chao or something. I'm not too sure why you would want to kill the Chao to begin with. For those of you watching who are Chao killers, shame on you, you sick fucks. The most experience I had with SA1's Chao Garden was on the PS3. I go back to it every now and then to check in on my Chao, who are still here after 10 whole years. It's still great to see them, but I do kind of wish I could transfer them over to a different console port. Thankfully on PC, the Chao Fusion editor helped me recreate all my Chao, so I don't have to keep booting up that whack-ass port. As a whole, I really like the Chao Garden, and I do appreciate the changes that DX brought to it, along with how much improved it'll be in SA2. I'll obviously delve more into it in that re-review, so hope you look forward to that. If you thought this was all there was to the Chao Garden, you ain't seen nothing yet. By the way, go watch Cybershell's Chao video, it's excellent. I guess the last thing worth discussing are the emblems. Like I said earlier, they're basically medals you collect throughout the game by completing either levels or tasks, along with being able to find them in the hub areas, which is fun. There are 130 emblems in total, and collecting all of them will reward you with nothing. At least in the Dreamcast version. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that they couldn't come up with a reward for getting all the emblems, since Adventure's development was super rushed. Though, in the DX port, you do unlock Metal Sonic, who's just a reskin of Sonic. Like, he literally plays the exact same as Sonic. Same levels and all, nothing else. Come on, at least give him Hot Shelter. His character model was also apparently ripped from SA2's multiplayer. Resourceful? Like, it's a fine enough reward, but it's pretty obvious that the DX devs couldn't come up with anything else. Oh well, at least we can finally get a reward for 100%ing the game. One quick thing I want to mention, Sonic Adventure was obviously designed to be a single player game, but remember back in Sonic 2 where if you plugged in a second controller, the second player could control Tails? Well, I'm not sure if everyone knew about this, but Sonic Adventure actually carried over this option. Yeah, a second player can control Tails. They could even do the spin attack and everything. It's the closest thing to a multiplayer mode that this game has, and it's kinda cool. So if anyone's curious to try this mode out, then have fun. Well, I guess that's just about everything from the Dreamcast version worth discussing. So I guess I should finally talk about the DX ports, right? Nope. There is one more thing I want to bring up. You see, the Sega Dreamcast was one of the first home consoles to incorporate online connectivity. Basically, you can access the internet to download certain stuff for your games on your VMU, which meant Sonic Adventure was the first game in the series to feature downloadable content, all of which was not included on the DX ports. That is so lame. Sadly, the official online servers for the Dreamcast were shut down years ago, but you could still access the internet using different methods. But in this case, every piece of DLC was archived and made into mods for the PC version of Sonic Adventure, which is how I'm going to be showing a few of them off. What exactly did the DLC consist of? Well, they're pretty simple stuff like a few holiday events, sponsorships that Sega promoted at the time, a Y2K celebration thingy, and a couple more. Some of these include decorating Station Square with a few things, like Christmas trees, and they play Christmas related music when you go up to them. It's honestly really cute, and I wish other versions of Sonic Adventure would include all of this content. What's pretty interesting is that different regions got exclusive DLC, so the US didn't get all the content that Japan and even Europe had. And I guess this is the part where I bring up that while just about every piece of Sonic Adventure DLC has been archived online, for a long time, there was one piece of downloadable content that was lost for years. This was the Katamatsu DLC, released only in Japan. It was a New Year's themed DLC release just a few days after the game's initial December 98 launch. It went missing mostly due to how shortly it was offered for download in Japan. Plus, with the Katamatsu decorations, it really didn't make much sense to release it in different regions. As a result, this DLC remained lost for 20 years. It wasn't until November 2019 when a fan named Moop the Hedgehog managed to find the data for the DLC on an old 4X memory card he purchased while visiting Japan. So he dumped the files online, and this lost piece of Sonic Adventure history was finally preserved. This was so amazing to finally see, and it's insane how it managed to pop up in the most random of locations. It's always super cool when lost media like this gets found. Okay, that is just about everything there is for me to discuss with Sonic Adventure on Dreamcast. I've damn well made it clear at this point that I absolutely love this game so much. Like, sure, it hasn't held up in some aspects. The cutscenes look rough, the voice acting is pretty bad, Big the Cat is laughable, and there are a few bugs here and there, but I still really adore so much about this game. The cutscenes are still entertaining, I love the voice cast, the soundtrack, the graphics, I love just about every level, I enjoy a lot of the extra content, and I just think SA1 is a beautiful time capsule of the late 90s Dreamcast era. It gets the job done amazingly well. I'd probably call it the best tech demo a video game console could ever get. But don't think that devalues the game as a whole though. It was an incredible display of how far video games had come at this moment in time. Sonic Adventure would go on to become the best-selling game on the Dreamcast, shipping 2.5 million copies worldwide. So if you have a Sega Dreamcast, definitely get the first Sonic Adventure. It's absolutely worth it. But I guess before I move on to SADX, I'll waste even more of your time by talking about the Sonic Adventure action figures for a bit. So a company called ReSaurus got the rights to create official Sonic merchandise between 1999 to 2000. They released multiple figures in two different series. Series 1 included Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and this 11-inch Sonic figure that looks super rad. Series 2 included Skiing Sonic, based on this official piece of artwork, Amy Rose, Big the Cat, and E102 Gamma. As you can see, I own just about all of them, except Gamma, mainly because the Series 2 figures were actually released close to when ReSaurus was going out of business, so the Series 2 figures became pretty rare to find. And with this being Gamma's only action figure ever, it quickly became the most sought after ReSaurus figure. So even if you can find a listing for it, it'll likely cost you hundreds of dollars. So aside from Gamma, I at least have the rest of them. I got these figures because I actually have a lot of nostalgia for them. Not because I had them as a kid, but more because I remember seeing a lot of these figures in Sonic Tilt's old stop-motion videos. I watched them all the time when I was little, and I always liked the look of these figures. Plus, finding out that they were made in promotion for Sonic Adventure is so awesome to me. I've heard that some people find Sonic's huge pupils to be a bit goofy, but I honestly love the way this figure looks. It's probably my favorite Sonic action figure ever. Though I will admit, the skiing Sonic would probably be the perfect figure if he didn't have different shoes. Also, because of how much I love Dreamcast Amy, it really warmed my heart to have an official action figure of her. ReSaurus actually planned on doing a third series for Sonic Adventure 2, but they never got made due to the company going out of business in 2000. Quite a shame. Their action figures were really solid, if a bit fragile. But yeah, I love these figures a lot, and I hope to God I can get that damn Gamma figure in the future. It's probably the best action figure ReSaurus ever made. Though a bit of warning, if you plan on tracking down these figures, just be aware that some bootleg figures can pop up every now and then. But if you do the right research, they can be pretty easy to point out. Alright, enough with the bullshit. So, let's say you don't want to play Sonic Adventure on Dreamcast, because you don't want to go through the hell of finding a Dreamcast that'll still work properly. Well, in 2003, Sonic Adventure would see a special release on the GameCube called Sonic Adventure DX, Director's Cut. Yeah, despite being called the Director's Cut, this version of the game wasn't actually handled by Takashi Iizuka, mainly because he was too busy working on Sonic Heroes, though the American title of the game still calls it a Director's Cut even though it technically isn't. I think this comment from a Cybershell video sums it up perfectly. SADX includes updates to the game like upgrading the framerate from 30 to 60 FPS, the character models were changed to look closer to the SA2 models, you can now skip the cutscenes, the FMVs are in better quality. Just about every level in the game were given new textures. They also implemented a free camera system, but it's not that great. Each hub area has a map now, which is alright. There's a new mission mode, just about all the Game Gear games are unlockable, and they added Metal Sonic as a reward for getting all 130 emblems. Okay, putting it bluntly, I don't like the way SADX looks. The updated graphics seemed really unnecessary to me. Like, I can get why they updated the character models. Sure, maybe I love them, but they don't exactly scream impressive in 2003 when compared to 1998. But why did they bother changing the textures in every level and hub area? Were they really that outdated looking? Who made this choice? I feel like this major change is a huge spit in the face of the original game devs because remember that trip that Sonic Team went on to find real life locations to base the game off of? I mentioned that some of their photographs from the trip were actually incorporated into the Dreamcast version as actual level textures. So now I'm just worried if SADX just got rid of them for no goddamn reason. Also, if you're one of those people who think the textures in SADX look better than the ones on the Dreamcast version, you're objectively wrong. Like, you can prefer it and say you like it more, that's fine, but they are objectively worse looking on GameCube than they were on Dreamcast. Countless textures and other effects suffer really awful compression and whatnot. Like, what game dev saw this and thought it looked good? What the fuck happened to these lights at the end of Dilapidated Way in Casinopolis? It's so ugly! Why does Ice Cap look so washed out? Why isn't Red Mountain red anymore? Was updating Speed Highway's textures really necessary? That was probably the best looking level on the Dreamcast. Why does the water look like jelly water now? Also, while most of the main characters got updated models, they didn't bother updating the NPCs, including the fucking Echidna tribe. So you can go back in time as the new shinier Knuckles model next to the out-of-place Dreamcast Echidna models. Why didn't they bother updating these? I know some of you may be thinking, well, you only go back in time at a few parts in the game, and each time is very brief. Who cares? I care! They updated Tikal for fuck's sake. They're all using the same character model anyways. Why not just take Knuckles' new model, recolor it, and give it clothing? Were they rushing to get this port out? What the fuck? Not only that, but it appears this port was just half-assed in a lot of areas. The 60 frame a second boost is very nice, but it doesn't seem like they adjusted parts of the game's internal logic to fit with it, especially with the enemy AI, most notably with Leon, a Batnik you encounter in a few areas who now disappears way faster in levels. He's not supposed to be fading away this fast, which can really be a bitch to deal with if you're trying to find the Master Emerald shards. Another issue I take with the visuals is how fucked the lighting is. The lighting in the original Dreamcast version was pretty fantastic for its time, and DX just butchered it. I honestly can't believe how badly this was handled. I know that there's plenty of people out there who don't care about the lighting or if the game was changed that much, but I am not one of those people. I will never stand for this crap. Well, I guess the big new feature is the mission mode, but I honestly don't want to go over it for too long. A lot of the missions can range from extremely tedious to just plain boring. It is the most uninspired extra in the game, which is kind of crazy considering the Dreamcast version had all of that cool downloadable content, which DX didn't even bother to include. By the way, the worst fucking mission is that stupid ass jump in Ice Cap. Seriously, fuck this jump and the person who made this mission. Why is this here? Okay, if you don't mind the visual changes and weird bugs that DX brought to the table, then I guess maybe check out Sonic Adventure DX. However, if you are gonna play DX, get the GameCube version. As much as I dislike a lot of the changes that this version introduced, subsequent ports of SADX would somehow keep getting worse. The GameCube version was later ported to PC in 2004, and this port had a lot of the same features and issues as the GameCube version, but somehow the lighting system was completely obliterated. Like, it still didn't look that great on GameCube, but the PC version made it look way worse. It's fucking abysmal. And to make it even worse, Sonic Adventure would later get a port on HD consoles in 2010, and it somehow managed to find more problems. This was the first version of Sonic Adventure I got to play, and I don't think I'll ever play it again. The HD port was actually based off the 2004 PC version, only now the game is surrounded by this ugly purple border. Why the hell did they put a border on the game? Like, this isn't a perfect port to begin with. You might as well let this broken ass port play in widescreen so more issues could follow. And why did it have to be some ugly purple scanline shit? Why not just use official artwork or something? That's what I fucking did! Another weird thing about the HD port is that it keeps a lot of the same features from DX on GameCube, but it removed the Game Gear titles for some reason. I'm gonna guess Sega didn't want to bother working on a Game Gear emulator to put in this port again. Nice. Oh yeah, this HD port was later ported again on Steam in 2012. So yes, the Steam version is a port of a port of a port of a port of a Dreamcast game. Mind-blowing, ain't it? Oh yeah, DX also added Cream, but she's only there as a background element, and for some reason the PC version fucked up her textures. I already complained about the lighting system, but on the HD port, the lighting in the Chaos 4 boss fight is so fucking bad that the character models look like they're cel-shaded. I could seriously spend several hours going over every change that SADX included that I hated, but this re-review is long enough and I really don't want to be here forever, so I'll just recommend checking out Cybershell's video about DX, because he perfectly addresses all the same issues that I had. Also, I'm pretty sure this is like the second or third fucking promotion I've given him in this video alone. So hopefully I have very likely made it clear at this point that I love Sonic Adventure so goddamn much, and it fucking pains me that the only version people have access to is the worst version of the game. That's not even a knock at DX. I know people who prefer SADX but hate the HD ports. So even DX fans are aware that these ports can be way better. But thankfully, there is a benefit to be found here. With SADX being on PC and Steam, this means that there are plenty of mods that can help benefit your experience with the game. For a while, Better SADX was seen as the most superior mod for the game, since it actually fixes a few bugs and other issues, like adding widescreen support and putting the Game Gear games back in. However, in my original review from Cooper's perspective, I propose mods be made to change SADX back to the original Dreamcast version. Well, a few months after that review, and right around the game's 18th anniversary, a group of fans put out the Dreamcast conversion mod, which does exactly what it says. It just about perfectly restores SADX back to the original Dreamcast graphics, textures, lighting, and all. Yes, these geniuses somehow managed to fix this game's lighting system, which absolutely blows my mind. The conversion mod was overseen by a fan named PKR, with help from a few others, and it's such an amazing effort. So pretty much, if you want to play the original Dreamcast version of SA1, but you don't want to get the console for it, then I'd just recommend getting SADX on Steam and installing the Dreamcast mods. You can even get an option for it when installing better SADX nowadays. Honestly, these fans are a bunch of legends for restoring this game way better than Sega ever could. While I'm at it, I'd also recommend trying out other mods like one that enables the light dash to function like it does in SA2, and a cool mod called New Tricks. This mod adds really sweet features like Tails and Knuckles getting their spin dash back, plus Amy can get a double jump, and has a few additional hammer moves, including her spinning glide from Heroes, which is so sick. It's honestly never been a better time to be an adventure fan than now. But I really do hope that Sega wises up and lets fans handle making a superior port of SADX that isn't the vanilla releases on HD systems and Steam, because this game deserves a lot more respect. Back in 2016 when I made that initial review, one of my biggest goals was to help give Sonic Adventure more respect than I feel like it was getting at the time. I guess that was also the point of this re-review too. I just hope whatever I had to say about the game meant something to anyone watching. Sonic Adventure has always been a very special game for me. I consider it my personal favorite 3D Sonic game of all time, because the gameplay showed so much potential for the series to keep improving on. It just has the best set of levels that I have the most fun replaying, especially when compared to the other 3D games. I didn't even grow up with this game, and while I did first experience it with one of the worst versions, a part of me still felt like there was something special about SA1 when I first played it 10 years ago. Seeing as I've gone back to play it on Dreamcast several times, made 2 completely different reviews of it, plus I needed to re-record my footage of the game like 3 goddamn times, and I'm somehow still not sick of playing this game, or talking about it for that matter. I don't know, I just really love Sonic Adventure. I appreciate a lot of the craft and effort that went into it, but I honestly wish I had more to talk about with this game. I know, seeing how damn long this re-review was and how much of a bitch it was to edit, I really want to keep talking about this game. I guess I should just end this before I'm here for several hours again. Quick thanks to my friend AJ for the Coop's Review title card I featured in the intro. He designed it for me as a little surprise, so I figured it would fit perfectly in this video. That shit looked nice. I will see you all in the next review, and thanks for watching. Go play Sonic Adventure now!
Down to the end of the day, the clock takes life away. So